Hello, thank you for watching my video, and please don't forget to like, subscribe and comment, and also check the description below for further links. The life of Elizabeth I was not an easy one, at least early on. When she was just a toddler, her mother, Anne Boleyn, was beheaded, and she had a difficult relationship with her half-sister, Queen Mary I, with Elizabeth even being locked in the Tower of London. When she became queen in 1558, Elizabeth would have felt she had more than paid her dues. This is the story of the reign of Elizabeth I. After the death of her wretched and childless half-sister Mary I, Elizabeth succeeded as queen, aged 25, in 1558. What the country needed now was some stability. The last years of Henry VIII had been traumatic, and the premature death of Edward VI, as well as the largely unpopular reign of Mary, meant England needed order and strong governance desperately. One of Elizabeth's first acts was to make William Cecil her secretary. He would be a key man throughout her reign. Elizabeth made clear to Cecil how crucial his role was. Speaking to him directly after his appointment, she ordered him to remain free of corruption and to not hold any information that was important from her. In the middle of January 1559, Elizabeth was crowned at Westminster Abbey, which was followed by a spectacular banquet, and later that month Elizabeth held her first parliament. Throughout the summer of that year, Elizabeth went on tour of the country, staying with members of the nobility. Whilst hosting the Queen was undoubtedly a great honour, it came at a huge expense and enormous inconvenience to whoever hosted her. Still being unmarried, rumours started to circulate about Elizabeth's relationship with a man named Robert Dudley, a Spanish ambassador to Philip II of Spain, who had been married to Mary I, reported back to his king that Dudley was growing ever confident in his position of royal favourite, and gossip soon began to spread that Elizabeth was in fact planning to marry him. It wasn't just the general population of England that wondered about Elizabeth's marital status. Before the end of 1559, she had received offers of marriage from the King of Sweden and a proposal to marry the son of the Holy Roman Emperor Ferdinand I. But these offers were rejected, as Elizabeth had bigger issues to worry about. She was growing increasingly concerned about Catholic plots to put Mary, Queen of Scots, her cousin, on the throne in Elizabeth's place. The French were becoming increasingly embroiled in Scottish politics, and the worry was that they'd invade the north of England on Mary's behalf. They eventually withdrew from Scotland after a peace treaty was agreed at Edinburgh, but the spectre of Mary would haunt Elizabeth for years and decades to come. Mary made no pretence of what she thought. She continued to bear the arms of England, making it quite clear that she thought she had a legitimate claim to the English throne. In September 1560, a suspicious death took place. Amy Dudley broke her neck after falling down some stairs. Or was she pushed? At the time, it was ruled to be an accident, but did her husband, Robert Dudley, Elizabeth's favourite, have something to do with it? He may well have done. And he may have thought that with Amy out of the way, his path to marrying Elizabeth was clear. But it doesn't quite add up. Amy Dudley was seriously ill, possibly with breast cancer, and her life expectancy was limited anyway, so why would Robert risk scandal such as this? Anyway, Elizabeth wasn't having anything to do with it. She distanced herself from talk of marriage, and she concentrated on her royal duties. And in the summer of 1561, she started trading with Guinea in Africa. This was the beginning of a truly global reign. Before Elizabeth, English minds had been almost dead set entirely on Europe. Elizabeth would change all that with the help of men like Drake, Raleigh, and others. And in search of wealth, riches, and exotic produce, she was not afraid of upsetting others for her own and her nation's benefit. Guinea had been the focus of the great seafaring nation of Portugal, and when a Portuguese ambassador came to her moaning about English infringements on the territory, Elizabeth was dismissive of his complaints. Same year of 1561, Elizabeth had Mary Queen of Scots to deal with again. She was returning to her home nation after the death of her husband, King Francis II of France. First of all, Mary asked to be allowed to travel through England, which, unsurprisingly, Elizabeth rejected. Then, even less surprisingly, Elizabeth flatly refused Mary's demands to be made Elizabeth's heir. In her spare time, Elizabeth spent many a time enjoying plays, with her most famous playwright being William Shakespeare. And in the summer of 1562, Elizabeth could be found enjoying a performance of a play written by two men named Thomas Sackville and Thomas Norton. As you may well deduce from any portraits you might have seen of Elizabeth, she also liked spectacular dresses, and by the time of her death in 1603, she is believed to have had as many as 2,000 of them in her wardrobe. She certainly believed in finery. But things weren't all glitz and glamour for the Queen. In fact, her reign was nearly cut short. In the autumn and early winter of 1563, Elizabeth fell seriously ill with smallpox, which very nearly killed her. It also left her with scars that Elizabeth covered up with heavy makeup for the rest of her life. When she had recovered, more pressure was placed on Elizabeth to find a husband, and perhaps still a little shaken by her narrow escape, she promised to give the matter some more thought. To summarize the early years of her reign, Elizabeth had shown great promise. She had been strong and decisive. She would not be cowed into making a marriage that did not suit her, and she had dealt with politically sensitive situations well. The early years of her queenship were not easy to navigate through, but she had managed to do so. And it is also clear that her subjects respected her. But despite all her good work, if she didn't marry and secure her dynasty, then a sudden illness like smallpox could have meant her reign counted for very little. Thankfully, she survived for another 40 years, and in part 2, I shall look at the years of her reign from 1564 to 1580.